Apple Presents events at the Apple Store.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this evening's guest moderator, IndieWire's Nigel Smith.
Good evening. How is everyone doing? So how long has everyone here been in line? Can I get a read from the room? 1 o'clock? Straight from school. Okay. So we have a mix of people. So tonight, obviously, you're here for a talk about the film Camp X-Ray, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and comes out on October 17th on iTunes and in theaters. It's an awesome film, so please tell all your friends and family to go check it out. Before kicking off tonight's talk with the star Kristen Stewart, and, applause, please. And writer-director Peter Sattler, we're going to watch the film's trailer to give you guys an idea of what the film's about.
Make no mistake about it. This is a war zone.
Ted Hutt, honor bound.
Some of these guys have been locked up in here for 8 years. You will refer to them as detainees. You will not call them prisoners.
You can talk to them, but do not let these guys know anything about you. Do not let them get inside your head.
How did you end up in this place?
How did you end up here?
It's been a very long time that I have been waiting, not knowing how all these things are going to end.
Only things can change.
Do you like it here in Guantanamo Bay?
I don't know. It's not as black and white as they said it was going to be.
I never agree to follow your rules. If I follow your rules, it means that I'm agreeing that you have the right to give me rules, which you don't.
One of your guys here, he told me that he knows I'm innocent, but I still cannot go home. No country, no city will take me because I've been here.
You and me, we are at war.
Your pal 471.
He's not coming back.
What are you gonna do, Cole?
I'm not going to give up.
No one here goes anywhere.
So please welcome to the stage Kristen Stewart and Peter Sattler. Kristen, does this ever get old? This is probably the biggest crowd I've ever seen come out for one of these talks. So I guess my first question is for you. That trailer does a really, really great job of kind of laying down the groundwork for what this film explores and is about. But Kristen, why don't you kind of open up to the audience who exactly Amy is and what her journey is over the course of this movie?
Amy Cole is somebody who likes to know things for sure, but doesn't like to do a whole lot of thinking. And so I think she signs up to do something good, signs up to, feel important and part of a larger whole, so she can kind of forget about herself. And things aren't like I said in the trailer. Things are not as black and white as she thought they were going to be. And there's a relationship in the movie that is it's the reason that I wanted to do the movie. There's a fundamental commonality between people. It doesn't matter how different or how far your worlds are from each other. There's something in all of us that's undeniable. And when you can find that in a difficult situation, if it's an impossible situation, and you still overcome that to sort of like derive that. You know, you need things from other people, and when you can find them in really unlikely places, it's rad. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Now, Peter, this marks your first feature film. Exactly what inspired this? I read that you were first inspired by a scene in a documentary or a clip out of a documentary.
Yeah, you know, I love movies that are about like very ordinary things and like extraordinary situations, you know. And I think as a filmmaker or an actor or a dramatist or anything, you're always looking for unusual dramatic situations and setups, you know. So it's like, yeah, I could tell a story about like two people breaking up at a diner. It's like, well, that's not. I mean, that's cool, but it's like, you know, I'm always looking for like a weirder scenario. And so when I started doing some research. And once I discovered that these guards and detainees basically can just talk and they're just stuck in this room together, and it's just like, you know, we think of Gitmo as this like intense, like, you know, high pressure area, which it is, but it's also just two people just sitting there shooting the breeze, just like having to hang out. And so I just instantly thought like, oh my God, like what do these two people talk about all day? And so when even before I started like plotting out a proper narrative, I just started writing dialogue. I just like start imagining what these two people from like literally opposite sides of the globe would talk about. And to me, it was such an interesting thing because there is so much banality there because you are just shooting the breeze, but there's also this inherent antagonism built in to the relationship. But it's cool because it's an antagonism it's not a personal antagonism. It's like Kristen was saying, it was like sometimes it's easier to think of things in a black and white way. It just makes your life easier. If I just think that you're a bad guy, it's going to be a lot easier because I don't have to think about the nuances of what you really are, what I really am. So I don't know, there was just all of those really interesting things how it just like fascinated me. And also, I thought it was a really cool way to tell a story about a big subject in a small way. Just two people, one room, but we also get to make a little bit of a statement about this kind of larger issue of Gitmo.
And, you know, given that this is your feature film, you're making that statement, and it's a big one, even though it's a really, really small-scaled film. What gave you the confidence as a first-time feature filmmaker that you could indeed pull something like this off? And, Kristen, for you, like, what gave you the confidence that Peter, you know, could actually make good on his vision? And he did. It's a fantastic film. But first-time filmmaker, you've worked a lot. I'm just curious.
Just raw bravado. No, you know, I think I have this feeling about like movies that I think they said this in the John Milius doc. It's like movies have to kind of be big, you know. They have to be about something big, and that's what I'm saying. I like things that are big and little at the same time. You know, it's got to be personal and intimate, but it needs to be about something important. You know, like there's a lot of movies out there. There's a lot of books. There's a lot of video games to play. There's a lot of apps on your phone, and it's like, you know, you need to have a movie that demands the audience's attention and say, hey, check me out, I'm worth watching. And so that's why when I set out to make my first feature, I wanted it to be about, as we say in the movie, I wanted to do something important, you know? And as, in terms of having the confidence to know that we could pull it off, it wasn't, I guess, an issue for me because when I had this kind of vision for the film, I knew what I wanted it to look like. And so I knew that I could technically execute it. You know, then it just comes to the question of, do people... Are they down with that vision of what you had? But I kind of knew what the movie needed to feel like, what it smelled like before we ever started making it.
I think it's worth noting that he's no newcomer. You were a Student Academy Award nominee, if I'm not mistaken.
That was many decades ago.
Well,
yes,
yeah,
correct,
but
yeah.
You know, it's quite the accomplishment nonetheless. So sorry, and Kristen, I asked you.
Well, okay, so I actually met Pete on a movie that I did with David Gordon Green called Undertow, and I do not remember that because it was a really long time ago, and we didn't work so closely. But he's really good friends with David, and that's somebody that I like, you know, revere. And so he wrote a great script. Honestly, like making movies is so much about risk. It doesn't really bother me. I think even if we made a terrible movie, I wanted to experience and take what I needed from, you know, a given situation. Even if the movie was terrible, I would still have learned from it. And that's, you know, I definitely don't move forward thinking like, oh God, I have to make everything I do has to have my stamp of approval. Like, I think I definitely don't always set out for like greatness. I think for actors it's different. As a director, it is you. I mean, it's.
See, I think it's totally different because, like, I was thinking about this the other day and realizing what a challenge it is for actors in a role, because people could see a movie and be like, that movie that Pete Sattler made sucked. But people will see an actor and be like, that actor sucks. And so it's like they directly apply it to a human being instead of like having that layer of abstraction that a director does. But it's interesting. I love what you're talking about. Like, and this relates to what we were talking about in terms of like trying to do this kind of weird, ballsy movie. And it's like it's like you have to like go big or go home. It's like failing big, and it's an interesting thing because there's this real fear of failure in the world. Everyone's like, it's a bad thing. Like, nobody wants to fail, but it's like if you don't step out of the box or push beyond what maybe is accepted or maybe is a tried and true formula, then you're never going to really push the medium. You're never going to push yourself. I remember when we were talking about this with Kristen, and she said once that she just liked doing movies that really scared her. And if she wasn't pushing herself, then what's the point?
So this project scared you in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's an odd thing signing up for. It's an odd thing being like, yes, for a month it will be extremely painful, and that will be the desired. That's like what I want to feel. But yeah, no, it was a scary movie. It's so small. It's like so quiet, and so if it's not genuine, if you're not stumbling through and surprising yourself and capturing a genuine experience, then it would have been, again, and it would be okay if it was awful, and it might be to some of you or whatever, but it was, we were not lying. That is definitely one thing.
It's also, I mean, in terms of a risky role, I've said this all the time, it's like, it's such a challenge because there's nothing to hide behind in this movie. I mean, and especially the way it's set up, like in the trailer you saw a little bit, a lot of their interaction is Kristen's character walking around, and Payman's character behind the glass, and it's just them interacting, and it's like they can't run around, the blocking is very limited, and so much of the movie is just literally a camera drilled into your face as you're kind of going through these things. And especially for Kristen's role, being that she's a soldier, her character is very stoic. She's not supposed to be talking to this guy. So she doesn't have these big dramatic monologues. She doesn't have these tricks that actors can use to have these fireworks to be able to kind of portray the character. It all has to be done like it's a game of inches in her character, which is...
literally inches. I had a window this big to look through.
Yeah.
I was like...
I think it was like 5 inches. The original window was like an inch smaller, and we were like, this is too small. And then we opened it up 1 inch. Because one more would have been too weird, but 1 inch, it's a weird thing, It's very challenging but it's the reality of that situation, of those characters down there. It's a challenging thing to create this feeling, not let alone to shoot between this this door and in these two rooms, but just to have that interaction between a tiny little sliver of glass. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, and all that requires a really, really internalized performance from you, which you beautifully bring to the screen in this film. What went into the prep work in order to really, really get inside her head and bring, that performance out?
I don't know. I think about that. It's odd calling. I hate when actors go, I think about her. It's like, but I don't know how else to put it. But like, I imagine that she walks around having swallowed just, like a cement truck, basically, like, and is, very, she is very internal. She doesn't like, she's not an expressive person. She's, afraid. There's something in there that's like, you want to figure out like what happened. And so I think for us it was thinking about what could have happened, like what her life was like before, what led her to where she is in the story, and we had a pretty like comfy amount of time to do that too.
Yeah, I mean, because so much of what was going on, because Kristen and Payman are such good actors, it's like the rehearsing the ups and downs and the flow of each scene wasn't, like a cold reading from them would be amazing, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's like all we had to do was kind of elevate it from there. So we could spend our time instead really talking in a more general sense and just intellectually about, what does it mean to be a girl? What does it mean to be this girl? Like, what did she do? Where'd she come from? Or tell stories like, hey, I knew a girl in high school that this happened to her. Like, what if that's the type of thing that would happen
that totally
to Cole.
happened to her. Oh
It's
my
like,
God,
it totally
that's
did.
it. That's why.
And it'd be funny that he texts me like, I was like, yeah, I remember Kristen. This is when I knew Kristen was on it. I think you texted me and she's like, oh, she would totally wear socks and sandals. Oh, that's what it was. She was like, Kristen was like, she has to wear socks and sandals. Call Wardrobe. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. You got it. That's when I knew, like, you totally know this girl. She's wearing some Adidas sandals.
That was like, defined her for me.
That's it. And it's those weird little and it's in the movie. We get a nice quick shot of it and everything. But it's like, and it's those weird little touchstones that, again, the movie is all about this minutia, these idiosyncratic things and little details that I think we're all obsessed with. It was also nice too. Kristen just did some great like word clouds too, just like layering into that as well. And like poetry word clouds.
Just writing a little poetry.
Cool, man. It's cool. I was like, that's why I said word cloud. It sounds more.
I know. Thank you for that.
These prose word clouds.
She developed a word cloud that was really inspirational.
But it's like, that's the thing, because it's such an intangible thing that we're trying to do with this character. It's all nuance. It's all subtlety, and that's not something you can attack with a hammer. You got to attack it with a feather.
Yeah. I'm not sure if any socks and sandals make their appearance in this first scene we're going to watch from the film. But
we should have pulled a clip of the socks and sandals. It's amazing. It looks so cool.
But let's share the first scene from the film.
471, the detainee. You two are friends.
No, sir.
You're not friendly with him?
No, sir.
You don't talk to him?
We have spoken. I am not. Like I said in my report.
I've read your report. I know what it says. I also know what Corporal Ransdell says about it. But what I don't know, and will probably never know, is what is really going on here. Do you like it here, son?
Sir?
Do you like it here? In Guantanamo Bay?
Yes, sir. It's fine.
I hate it. This ain't the kind of post a guy makes his stars on. Nobody gives you a medal when you do it right. They just give you a demotion when you do it wrong. My granddad, he flew 25 missions over Germany. Blew up a dozen Nazi installments. What do we get? We get to babysit a bunch of sheep farmers.
Are you okay? I've never seen such a violent reaction to a clip from an actress.
I mean, I can only imagine. I mean,
I didn't know we were going to start with that. It was like slightly out of context. It's fine. It's just like that was a miserable experience.
Oh.
Let's just watch the movie. Just throw it on.
Let's just watch it on.
It
doesn't
make sense.
No, you want these people to pay money to go see it.
I'm
It's
sure
an
they'll
independent
pay.
film. It needs your money.
Okay, cool.
So do you always have that reaction of viewing yourself on screen? Do you hate, a lot of actors don't like seeing themselves on screen.
No, I mean, it was kind of specifically that clip. It doesn't matter. Let's just like breeze by that.
Okay.
No, it's a weird thing. I mean, I can't imagine how anyone could watch themselves act on screen. I mean, it's so crazy. I mean, it's hard for me. I mean, it's hard for me to watch the movie from time to time, because it's such a personal thing, especially when you really kind of throw yourself all into a movie and in a role as Kristen does, or like people that are just like, I'm doing this all in. It's not just a job. I'm like, this is a part of my soul. I'm placing on the altar of cinema to be set on fire. It's like it's hardcore. So it's like woven into your DNA. So it's a weird thing.
So I'm guessing you didn't actually shoot the film in Guantanamo Bay. Where did the
that
shoot?
would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been pretty awesome. Where did the shoot actually take place?
We got super lucky, actually. Well, so it's weird. So the Army set up that they wanted to build a prison down there. So, of course, they turned to a prison contractor in America and probably paid them like $10 billion, whatever it was. And they basically just built a replica of an American prison down there. So in order to find a stand-in, all we needed to find was a maximum security prison. And there happened to be one just outside of L.A. Only in L.A. is there like a standing prison, real prison that's abandoned. And we got to shoot in there, and it was cool. And the nice thing about it, as opposed to I was thinking about this, as opposed to having like a set, is like when you're in an actual prison, it's like you can kind of feel that vibe. It's not like you're in a set and you can like look around and see that it's just like plywood and 2x4s and Luan. It's like no, like it's real. These walls are real. Those doors are heavy. I mean, they are thick, solid steel. And you can, more than that, you can sit in there and just imagine like, yeah, there were some like people here. Like, this is weird. And it's like, as you said once, like the walls have memories. It's like, it's a weird thing. So I think that probably, hopefully affected your performance or influence to some degree.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, it's always fun to allow your imagination to transport you, but when you don't have to and you're just there, it's like such a treat. And it takes away a lot of the work you kind of don't want to do. Like, it takes away the faking part, and it's great.
And you shot this film chronologically, if I'm not mistaken.
Not entirely. Somebody's trying to do. There's a director trying to do that right now. I read about. Anyway,
yeah.
So another story. No, we shot because we were in this facility for I think 18 out of the 21 days that we shot. That was mostly in this kind of prison world. We were able to shoot their scenes almost chronologically. I think one scene we pulled out of order because we were at a different spot in this giant base prison thing we were at. But most of them we were able to do in order because it all takes place in the one room. So, you know, and there's an interesting thing. I mean, like Kristen was saying, you want to fake it as little as possible. And so their relationship in the movie is much like all of our relationships as filmmakers making the movie. We're all going to come together. We're going to have this really intense and difficult relationship and this time trying to achieve this thing. Then at the end, you have that bittersweet moment of everyone says goodbye. I mean, I haven't seen Kristen since the movie finished, or since Sundance, you know? It's like, I haven't seen Payman since then either, you know? It's just, and everyone kind of goes their separate ways. It's the same thing as the movie, and so I was conscious of that. Having worked on a lot of movies, I know that feeling, and so I was like, that's exactly what these characters are going to experience well. So it's kind of nice being able to say goodbye at the end and not, like, do everything in wonky order, you know? I don't know how you can do that on, like, bigger movies. It must be such a challenge. I mean, even I remember jumping into some of the hard stuff we had to do early. I was just like, we both were just like, how are we going to do this? Like this, like how, like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like we just started. It was like we've only been shooting for like 2 days, and we were supposed to have like this big emotional scene.
Get
it was
out of
just
here!
Like,
I was so upset about that. Yeah.
We never used it though. We cut it.
I know. They cut it because it wasn't good. Because it was fake.
No, it wasn't. That's true. No fake stuff.
But shooting most of your scenes with Payman that way chronologically, I mean, that must be such a huge benefit to you as an actress. Had you ever worked that way before?
Some filmmakers are really adamant about it. I'm trying to think. I think On the Road was very start to finish, with a few exceptions.
Which is remarkable considering all the locations you had to shoot in for that film. It doesn't take place in one spot.
Yeah. This movie that I just finished in Japan and Singapore there were a few chunks that were entirely start to finish, and I think now looking back on it, I'm gonna really like push for that. It changes. You know, you only have one shot to make something and have a first experience, and if it's not captured, it's just like so painful. So if you set yourself up right, you can just knock it down. Like you don't have to, you know, it's so important. Like if I ever made a movie, I would be obsessed with that. Yeah.
Now, the chemistry that you and Payman have in this film, I mean, it's funny, it's moving, it's tender, it's kind of mysterious in a way, it's a little romantic. Did you have them test read, against each other just to make sure that, you know, their bond would work on film? Because it's such a huge part of the story.
We didn't actually have to do a test read. They kind of did it on their own. So what happened was, Kristen read the script, and then we met, and then, we decided to jump in and do this thing. And then I did a video chat with Payman, who was living in Iran at the time. He's an Iranian. Actually, he's like a huge film star in Iran. I don't know if y'all know that.
Star of A Separation, which is a fantastic.
Yeah, if you haven't seen The Separation, it's amazing.
Film.
And what's amazing about it, it's such a different role for him, because in The Separation, he's this very stern, buttoned-down Iranian father, but in real life, he's just this like super gregarious, just like fun, loudmouth guy. So I met him, and then we did. You're absolutely right. I mean, the movie lives and dies on their chemistry. If it didn't exist, the movie would fall on its face. So we did a video chat between the two of them, and it was hilarious because they instantly kind of fell into their roles. Because, Payman was just like, Kristen, how are you doing? It is so good to see you, Peter. Let me tell you, I love you. This is so wonderful. And he's just talking. And Kristen is much. She's like, just here. He's like, oh, cool. Like, saying a few things and just like, yeah, Payman, I like that. Oh, separation's awesome. But just kind of like listening. Like, she listens. She observes a lot. And I was just like, both of these people were like literally doing the roles like in their own skin. And that's when I was just like, oh, this is amazing. And honestly, I think on that call, we like gave him the job right then and there.
Yeah.
Because we both looked at each other just like,
minutes,
can we do this? It's like, yeah. It's like, all right, Payman, come on. Like, come to America. Come play with us. We got to do this.
This film was shot over 21 days, which I know is pretty standard, in indie film land, but to me, it still kind of dumbfounds me.
There's nothing standard about 21 days.
Yeah,
it's
nothing
absurd.
standard.
It's ridiculous.
How did you guys pull it off? I mean, I know it doesn't take place in that many locations, but the emotional terrain you guys have to cover over the course of such a short period of time is pretty exhausting, I imagine.
It was good for me because, it doesn't give you too much time to think or like, we were constantly tackling like monumental parts of the movie. There wasn't one day that went by that was like, oh yeah, kind of have today off a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, I really appreciate short, intensive bursts of, it, because then it doesn't keep you on the line so long. It's like, as much as you sign up to, have a bunch of the feels, I don't want them that long. Like, I just want little bursts of that. So 21 days was perfect for me. But that
feels.
The feels.
Yeah, you can't have more than 21 days of these feels, Like, it's a weird, awkward, especially like for your character. It's just like she's so uncomfortable the whole time. So it's like if you'd spend any more days uncomfortable. There's something really nice about shooting. It's not nice because it's ridiculous to shoot a movie this fast. But if there is an upside, if there must be one, is that you don't second guess yourself. There is something to be said about just like that gut check, and if you know what the movie is going in, and as I said, it's like I think when we had the script, me, Kristen, and Payman, we all were like, okay, I understand what this movie's intention is, and if you know what that is, then you can just on a day in, day out be like, is this right? Is that right? What do you think? What do we think? This is it, and it's just like there's no going back, and you just roll with it. And it's an interesting challenge. Sometimes you can get in this analysis paralysis. When you just look at something and overwork the dough too much. And that happens a lot in editing because you have greater time. It happens a lot as a writer sometimes. I'm kind of facing out on this thing I'm writing right now. You're just so in it, and you're just like, I'm lost. I've just been analyzing every word way too much. So, there are benefits to shooting fast. Yeah.
Oh, man, there's nothing like if you're sitting there and you're like, we have in 1 hour, the scene is going to be done. You're like... It just kicks you in the ass. It's just like it's a fire. It's like a fire. Yeah.
This only took 21 days, but you've worked on films that have taken much, much longer. Did you relate to that aspect of Amy's life? Because you make a big point of the fact that Amy spends so much of her time away from her loved ones, away from her family. Did that part of her journey kind of speak to you?
I think that was one very desirable aspect of being at Guantanamo for her. Maybe the only one is getting away. Yeah. I'm really lucky. I get to live in different places and have sort of like consolidated different little versions of what my life could be like. Like, okay, I'm going to live in New York for a minute to make a movie. I'm going to be there for a couple months. I've never done that before. You know what I mean? It's like that I really appreciate. But I like being home a lot.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to watch a second clip from the film, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience. So start preparing those questions. I'm stuttering.
Compliant detainees get to plan a real film together.
Uh-huh. They're lucky.
You stop acting up, they'll transfer you. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't care.
It's those guys who don't care, Blondie. They don't care about anything. Just the things that make their life easier. You guys always say, follow these rules, we will let you watch TV. Huh? If I follow your rules, what does it mean? It means that I'm agreeing that you have the right to give me rules, huh? Which you don't. You don't have the right to give me rules. So me, I never agree to follow your rules. Never. No, maybe you think I'm stupid for this.
No, you're not stupid.
No, I mean, maybe you're right, but...
Definitely not stupid.
So we're going to open it up to the audience. If you have a question, please just raise your hand. And this lovely man here is going to be coming around with a mic.
Hi, Kristen and Peter. Thanks so much for coming tonight. My question is for both of you. Did you do any primary research in speaking to Guantanamo Bay service members while preparing for this film?
No, we just made it up.
We just guessed. We got really lucky. Most of the research was done the old-fashioned way with a lot of books and stuff and documentaries. And it was actually really cool when Kristen jumped on to do the movie. I went over there with a box full of memoirs and DVDs and stuff. And then she was like, "Yeah, I already have all those. And actually, here's 2 that you don't have." Because, kind of like we all were. So, she was super committed to really getting it right. We did do some military training with a cool guy up in Northern California, which was cool. And I think that helped with a lot of the P's and Q's of just that military...
Physicality.
Yeah. It was huge. But mostly it's just good old-fashioned research. WikiLeaks actually helped us out a lot because they leaked the operating manual for Guantanamo Bay. So it gave us literally a detailed instructions on how to do everything. There's a scene in the movie. We actually have some paperwork from it in the film, just pulled out of the back of the actual, manual. It's cool.
So when you've made a movie, it takes its time to come out. You have the film with Olivier Assayas. What is it like to go back in and see we're seeing a little bit about what it's like to go back in and see these things. When you sit back and look at yourself playing these parts and working with the directors, what comes to mind the most? What do you think about it? Do you rework the process of making it, or do you think about what you wanted to add that you didn't get the chance to add? I'd like to get that inside look.
One sort of nice sort of unexpected gift that we get through doing press is that we get to kind of relive it a little bit and sort of indulge in thinking about something that after I finish a project, I really want to get away from it for just to keep a little sane.
Well, you need space, too, to reflect on it, It's you can't have that larger context when you're in the middle of it,
Yeah, it's that same thing you were saying about writing. It's if you're so in the middle of something, it's hard to see it. And
what did you do to get over this role?
She went and made a movie 2 days after we finished.
Yeah, I had no choice.
She has been working. This is insane. She has made 100 movies between now and then. It's crazy. She's been working nonstop.
The last 2 years have been crazy. I'm not going to be an actor on a movie for a long time.
That must be such a challenge too. Because I just remember that we were wrapping up and we're all done. And just yeah, I'm going to be on set in a week on this next movie. I was just Kristen, that's insane because you went through the exact same thing I did. We were through the emotional ringer on this bad boy.
Yeah.
And I was and now you got to go and just reboot all over again. How do you do that?
Luckily, these particular projects, I had no problem having them so close together. If I had to jump from this to say Equals, I couldn't do it. It was just that Sills is kind of entirely analytical and intellectual. And, we talk a lot. We never stop talking. And I was looking forward to doing dialogue.
So because it was different.
It was so different. Yeah. It was almost it helped me just go, okay, Camp X-Ray, done. But to finish answering your question, I guess it's weird what filters out and what occurs to you, and I can think that a experience has maybe not been so great and seen bits and parts alone of it and thought, oh my God, we didn't do it, we didn't hit it, and then sometimes you get back together with the group of people and you get like a little affirmation. Maybe one person goes, dude, it was great. I mean, that was like, I loved it. And then you're like, wait, so I'm allowed to maybe I'm allowed to like it. And then basically it's just kind of nice to luxuriate in the feeling of like thinking about something that is done already.
I was talking about this with someone else. It's a really hard thing when you're an artist because you have to hate your work, but also like champion it at the same time. You know, you have to say this isn't good enough, this is terrible, but you also have to say this is the most important movie ever made, and it's going to be glorious when I finish it. And it is this absolute duality, and it's the craziest thing on earth.
So bizarre. Yeah, you do have to be the most self-important. Literally, we are doing. My life rises and falls on whatever project I'm doing at the time. And so it is a little counterintuitive because at the same time, I would like to think of myself as someone who's like fairly aware and is like, no, I get it when things are, true and great, and I get it when they're not. But at the same time, it's always like, for me, the most important. It's embarrassing.
But I have that same reaction too. I remember when we were editing, I would watch it down with my editor, Giraud, who's a wonderful editor, and we would watch it down and we'd turn to each other and be like, I hate this movie. And he's like, this movie is amazing, Peter. This is crazy. And the next day we'd watch it again and I'd be like, Giraud, we really did it. And he's like, I didn't like the movie today. It was like literally the same cut, but it was just like 2 days later, one of us would love it, one of us would hate it. It's weird. You're in the creative process. You're in the middle of it. It's hard to separate yourself from it.
Hi. Hi, you guys. I've been a fan of you, Kristen, for like a couple of years now. Enjoy like passion from filmmaking. Sorry.
Dude.
It actually inspired me to go into film myself. And although I'm more into editing than directing or acting, I was wondering if you guys have like any tips or anything.
That's amazing that you're going into editing. There are not enough women in film.
That's hard. It's hard to do, sit in a room for so long. Fuck.
Editing actually is a really good. It's a really good like not just as like artistic, but like career-wise. Editing's a good thing because everyone always needs stuff edited, whether it's a TV show or a film or whatever it is. Like that demand always exists there, And so it's a great trade as well as a great artistic outlet. And editing really is, in a sense, editing is the last. It's the last level of authorship. Like as an editor, you will be the person that is doing the last directing, It's like that's the last step, and that's really the place where everything comes together. It doesn't matter if you shot the greatest footage and the greatest scenes in the world. If you don't put it together right, it's terrible. I had a friend of mine, I was watching a rough cut of something, and it was like no good, and then it just got re-edited, all the same scenes, same actors, and it flew, and it was different. So it's going to be amazing, and I'm sure you'll do some amazing work. And thank you for going into filmmaking. There needs to be more women filmmakers out there.
Hi. So I was just wondering, since the movie has such like a heavy atmosphere, is it hard when you're like not filming? Hi, I'm here. So I was just wondering, like, when the camera stops rolling, is it hard for you to like joke around or like be normal, or is there still just like a really heavy atmosphere?
I kind of, until something's finished, I kind of wear it. But then as soon as it's done, like it's literally as if like it's how do I describe this? Like it's like the transition period is it's like a split second. As soon as I feel like I've accomplished something or I've like felt what I wanted to feel, it is such a relief that I get giddy about it. I'm like, I'm so relieved to not worry about that anymore, because typically I've had months to like build up this moment to just an almost debilitating degree. And when I am not debilitated and I go through with something and I feel great, it's like, I can mess around on set, right? We had a lot of fun.
We did. I mean, I think to some degree, a little bit of that break was really necessary because you're doing such heavy stuff. You got to just walk away and clear your head a little bit. But, there's some intense, atmospheric, moody stuff going on. And there's a weird balance because you can hold on to that. But at the same time, I remember being on set, just having just a handful of moments of just looking around and people being like, oh, yeah, we did something cool. Like, we did some cool stuff right there, And so it's not pride, but there's a satisfaction, I think, in what we were doing because everyone was so cool and everyone's intention was to make the best film. There was no ego of anyone on the set. And so we could keep a kind of moody tone, but still not be completely wanting to kill ourselves because there was a little bit of...
There's an excitement that, like,
yeah,
keeps
there was
it
a little
going,
buzz
yeah.
there, even though we were all bummed out doing this terribly depressing stuff. But there are some funny scenes in the movie, too. There actually are. I'm not kidding.
Payman's hysterical.
Payman's
He makes
hilarious.
me, I, like, die, yeah.
Hi, this question is for Kristen. Since we know you're into word clouds and poetry, can we expect to see you as the writer-director at some point in the future?
Yeah, I'm gonna make movies. I don't know. Like I wrote a short recently. I sent it to him. We had a discussion about the fact that basically what I'm getting at is up until this point, storyline is so not my thing. I live in moments. And so I don't know about the whole writing, directing thing. I'm getting there. I want to direct so bad, but I've not written anything. I've written shorts. I've written a lot of poetry, but like start to finish, that whole thing. I don't know. I think I could rewrite something really well. Although
You should
I'm
adapt
not
like
sure
a book or something. That'd be good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know why? Because then you'd have that kind of baseline down. I was reading this thing about Coppola, and one of his peers was like, "Look, Coppola's great, but Mario Puzo saved his butt." It's like because he had this like rock solid like story that he could live off of. So you should adapt a book. That'd be cool.
Well, until we see Kristen's film, you all have to check out Camp X-Ray. It's out in theaters and out on VOD on October 17th. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
for coming out
Thank you
today.
all for having us. Thank you for coming out.